Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation. Today we will be talking about the infamous Stanford prison experiment and its relationship with agile management. Our agenda will be an overview of the Stanford prison experiment, the power dynamics of the experiment. Then we get more into the meeting point of the experiment with agile management and talk about ethical considerations, improvement and retrospectives, leadership and shared responsibility, collaboration and empathy, and finally our conclusion. Now, starting with the overview of the experiment, firstly, this psychological experiment was conducted in 1971 by psychologist Dr. Philip Zimbardo and his colleagues at Stanford University. They were interested to see the psychological effects of perceived power and authority in a prison environment and see if the situation is the main reason behind guard brutality in prisons. 24 stable college students were selected, and they were randomly assigned the roles of a guard or a prisoner, and they were placed in some kind of mock prison in Stanford, and were supposed to be there for 2 weeks. But the project was shut down in 6 days due to unethical behavior that emerged from it. At the start, the guards were told that they could do anything to maintain the law in prison, except physical violence, but they showed sadistic, dehumanizing behavior against prisoners, including physical and a lot of verbal abuse, also often doing things for the sake of it, like making them do push-ups or do their bed multiple times. And they, of course, caused great stress, helplessness, and psychological trauma on the prisoners. Some even had breakdowns, and the researchers had to let them leave, even though they almost never intervened during the experiment and never talked with the guards to change the way they act or anything. Of course, they had to end the experiment early, but the experiment did provide some information to the world of psychology. It showed how important the roles and situations given to the people can affect their individual behavior. It showed that having power and authority paired up with this can lead to abuse of power and unethical behavior. But this infamous experiment still remains one of the most controversial and unethical psychology studies in recent history. Overall, the Stanford prison experiment highlights the possible issues with unchecked authority while showing the need for ethical rules to follow in the field of psychology. And for our topic, while it seems quite unrelated to agile management, we found that it shows the importance of agile approach, and what an environment without agile approach, an environment without or with strong authorities defined specific roles can look like. Now, my friend Ziya will be talking about the dynamics of the experiment and explore some parallels with agile management.
Thank you, Efe. As Efe said, I'm going to talk about the general dynamics and power dynamics in the Stanford prison experiment and talk about the relation of it to the agile management. As we mentioned before, in the Stanford prison experiment, Zimbardo assigned 2 roles to the participants, prisoners and guards. As soon as the experiment started, there was a quick emergence of power dynamics. Guards were exercising high authority and prisoners were losing autonomy. They started to behave not like a person, but a puppet. Also, as the time passed, guards were becoming more and more cruel. Similarly, in agile management, there is a recognition of the importance of shared leadership and the minimization of hierarchical structures. Agile teams emphasize self-organizing principles, enabling every team member to contribute to decision-making processes and take ownership of their work. Unlike this situation in the prison experiment. This shows that the concentration of power and authority can hinder collaboration and innovation within a group. Can you pass the slide, please? Thank you. In this slide, I'm going to talk about the meeting point of agile management and the experiment. As you can see, we separated the meeting point of the experiment and agile management into 3 parts: ethical considerations, collaboration and empathy, and lastly, improvement and retrospectives. First, I'm going to talk about the ethical results and takeaways from the experiment. One of the realities uncovered by the Stanford prison experiment was the potential for unethical behavior when individuals are given power without proper oversight and accountability. The guards in the experiment began to engage in abusive and dehumanizing actions towards the prisoners, illustrating the dangers of unchecked authority. In agile management, ethics and responsibility are crucial subjects that should be considered. Agile teams value transparency, trust, and ethical conduct, creating an environment that encourages open communication and feedback. This environment, of course, develops the well-being of every member and the work done by the group. Agile frameworks usually have a reflection mechanism that ensures there aren't any problems regarding ethics and harmful behavior. When ethics is not considered and reflection is not given, psychological safety of members can be in danger. Because when ethics is not considered, there aren't any empathy in the group, which prevents a supportive work environment. In the experiment, the guards' dehumanizing treatment of the prisoners was fueled by a lack of empathy. Agile teams prioritize empathy and psychological safety by encouraging active listening, empathy exercises, and creating a safe space for the team members to express concerns or challenges without fear of retribution. Of course, without these factors, it is highly possible that members can come across a lot of problems in work. Now, my friend Ömer will continue.
Thank you, Ziya. So right now I will talk about the improvement and retrospectives about of the agile management. So we know that agile teams and Scrum teams usually conduct daily stand-up meetings at the sprints, but in that daily stand-up meetings, they work towards the reflection and feedback of the previous work that they have done, and identifying the possible reasons of the things that they have done wrong. By identifying that, they can create new solutions, and by continuously improving their work to complete the task successfully. So, but unlike that, in Stanford prison experiment, we see that due to the sharp line between the prisoners and guards, there is no feedback between prisoners and guards, and also administrators of the experiment are not giving any reflection or feedback to the prisoners or guards. So therefore, we cannot see any improvement. And also, there is no purpose about improvement cycle in the Stanford experiment. So to sum up, we can see that Stanford experiment is really good opportunity for us to observe the behavior of the teams while they do not improve continuously. And also it's important to see the results. So secondly, I will talk about rotating leadership roles and shared responsibility. So we know that in an agile team, everyone takes the ownership of their own work, and also in the Scrum. And by taking the ownership of that role, they can control the work that they have done. And also by the rotating leadership, they can lead the group. And also with that, they can create a better work. And also we can see that in Stanford experiment, no one is taking responsibility. So we can see that guards are behaving and acting really violent way, in a really violent way. And they do not take responsibility, so they can do anything to the prisoners, and therefore by the time goes at the 6th day, the Zimbardo should terminate the experiment. And also this means that accountability is important in experiment, since when you do not control the power hierarchy, then you can see the problems such as experiments. Now my friend Burak will talk about collaboration and empathy.
Thank you, Ömer, for your talk. Now I will talk about relation between Stanford Prison Experiment and Agile approach about collaboration and empathy. We can state the Stanford Prison Experiment as a good example of consequences that arise when power is unchecked and ethical considerations are not prioritized, as it can be seen on the experiment how diminishing empathy between guards and prisoners created an us versus them mentality on the sides. In the other hand, agile management emphasizes collaboration, empathy, and creating sense of collective ownership. Agile teams value the diversity of different perspectives and skill sets by recognizing the importance of understanding and accommodating different viewpoints. Agile management does this by promoting the environment where individuals respect and support one to another. This promotes the creativity, open dialogue, and a shared commitment to the team's goals while mitigating the risk of harmful power dynamics. As a conclusion, while the Stanford Prison Experiment and Agile management may seem like unrelated topics at first glance, drawing parallels between them reveals valuable lessons for creating effective and ethical work environments. Agile management's emphasis on shared leadership, collaboration, empathy, adaptability, and continuous improvement aligns with the principles necessary to avoid the abuse of power observed in the Stanford Prison Experiment. By promoting ethical conduct, fostering open communication, and prioritizing the well-being of team members, Agile management provides a framework that supports both individual growth and collective success. With that, we can say that with the Agile management, it is possible to create a work environment that won't harm anybody regardless of their position or status. This is our references, and thank you for listening.